Hi, my name is Rani Matigela. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So I wanted to talk about things that are unfolding in that courtroom of Judge Ratha that are strange, but okay, let's talk about it. Something very important is happening in the courtroom right now in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. And many people watching may not yet realize just how serious it is, because what is unfolding in court is no longer just about emotional testimony or dramatic courtroom exchanges. It is how actually it has now moved into something far more dangerous for the prosecution: the evidence. The evidence, Baloyi, the evidence, please say. If you want to be taken serious, bring us the evidence. And more specifically, the holes inside the evidence. And at the center of this moment is Bongani Ndanzi, one of the accused men in the trial. Over the past few sessions, Ndanzi has not behaved like someone who is overwhelmed or intimidated by the legal process. Very chilled, very understanding, because he knows he's not guilty of anything. Instead, something quite unusual has happened. He has started questioning the state's own evidence. And the questions he is asking are not emotional. They are not desperate. They are procedural, logical, and extremely specific. Let's start with the first major issue. Let's deal with it because, wow, son. The state claims that Bongani Ndanzi had access to a cell phone while he was incarcerated. Now, on the surface, that might sound like a simple allegation, but legally, it creates a very serious problem, because in South African law, if an inmate is found with a cell phone while in custody, that is not a minor administrative issue. It is a separate criminal offense. That means a completely new criminal case must be opened. There must be a case number. There must be an investigating officer. There must be documentation showing who discovered the phone, who confiscated it, and where it was stored as evidence. But in court, Ndanzi asked a devastating question. Where is that case? Where is the case number? If a phone was truly found in his possession, there should be a separate criminal docket. There should be paperwork. There should be records. There should be officers who can testify. And yet, according to what has been presented so far, the entire process appears to be missing. In fact, let me not be even saying it's missing. If it was there, Ubaloyi would have brought those people. He didn't bring those people to come and strengthen what he is accusing Bongani right now of, because there is no such. Absolutely no such. So why is he doing this? What does he expect to happen? Ufuna bantu bathini? Do you understand? So it's questionable now, the entire situation. It's very tricky for him, and he looks like he doesn't understand why people are not understanding. So we want evidence. Which leads to the next major issue: chain of custody. In criminal investigations, chain of custody is everything. It is the documented process that shows how evidence moved from the moment it was discovered to the moment it appears in court. For example, if police say they found a cell phone on a suspect, the court normally expects a clear sequence of events. Where is the sequence of events? The officer who discovered the phone must testify. The officer who seized the phone must testify. The evidence officer who booked it into storage must testify. And finally, the forensic analyst who extracted data must testify. Where are those people? Where are those people right here, right now? Abeko. Every step must be documented, because even if one step is missing, the defense can argue something extremely powerful: evidence contamination, or worse, evidence fabrication. Now add another layer to this unfolding situation: the call data and records. The state has been presenting cell phone communication records that they claim link Ntanzi to other individuals connected to the case. But Ntanzi raised another crucial question. Where are the cell tower locations? When a cell phone connects to a network, the system records the cell tower that handles the signal. That tower has a physical location. This information allows investigators to estimate whether the phone where the phone was when the call happened. But here is where things start becoming complicated. Some of those records presented repeatedly show undefined towers. That might sound like a small technical detail. It is not. Because if a tower location cannot be identified, then the exact location of the phone becomes uncertain. And that brings us to one of the most important principles in digital evidence. A phone location is not the same as a person's location. Just because a phone was somewhere does not automatically mean the person was there too. That distinction is critical in court. Now, the defense has another tool in this debate: vehicle tracking, specifically something called AVL data, which stands for automatic vehicle location. AVL systems records GPS coordinates, timestamps, and the movement of vehicles over time. According to the discussion in court, there are claims about vehicle movements that do not seem to make practical sense. For example, there was an explanation suggesting that traffic conditions could block a vehicle for an extended period, creating a gap in GPS tracking. But the defense pointed out something interesting. The road being discussed is extremely busy. And during the COVID lockdown period, traffic flow was actually faster because there were fewer cars on the road. So the idea that the vehicle could remain blocked for an extended time in that specific location raises questions, not proof of wrongdoing, but questions. And in criminal trials, questions can become reasonable doubt, but perhaps the most powerful issue raised by Ntanzi involves something far more basic than cell phone tower or GPS coordinates. Police records, okay? Police records. Every police station keeps official documentation of what happens inside the police station. Two of the most important records are the occurrence book, often called OB, and the station diary. These books record critical information: prisoner arrivals, prisoner movements, transfers to court, visits, medical trips, everything. If a prisoner moves from location to another, it should appear in those records. Ntanzi asked a simple question: where are those records? If the state claims he was moving between locations or using a phone while in custody, the OP entry and station diary should show exactly where he was on specific dates. Those documents should create a timeline, a clear chronological timeline, okay? But so far, those records have not been clearly presented in court, and that creates another opening for the defense. Because if the timeline is incomplete, the defense can argue that investigation itself was incomplete. Now let's step back for a moment and look at the bigger picture, because Ababaloi, they think we are stupid. In criminal law, the state carries the burden of proof, not the accused. The prosecution must prove the case beyond reasonable doubts. Not maybe, not probably, not it seems likely, beyond reasonable doubt, straight out. That is one of the highest legal standards in any justice system. And this is where the courtroom strategy becomes extremely interesting, because what we are witnessing now is not just a battle between lawyers. It is a battle between evidence and doubt. Every missing record, every undefined tower, every unexplained gap in documentation, each one adds a small piece to the defense argument. And those small pieces can eventually form something powerful, reasonable doubt, which already breeds heavily in this case. Now, none of this means case is decided. Trials do not end because of a single question or a single inconsistency. But when questions keep appearing, gathering, when procedure appear incomplete, and when documentation seems unclear, the court must examine those issues very carefully, because the consequences of getting it wrong are enormous. This case is not just about the individual. It is about the murder of Senzo Meyiwa, a national sports hero whose death shocked South Africa. The public wants justice, but justice requires something specific, evidence that is reliable, evidence that is properly documented, evidence that can withstand scrutiny. And right now, inside the courtroom of Judge Ratha Mokgoatlheng, scrutiny is exactly what the evidence is facing. The coming session of this trial could therefore become extremely important, because if the prosecution cannot fill the gaps that are now being questioned, the defense will continue pushing those weaknesses. And if those weaknesses grow large enough, they could shape the final outcome of the case. For now, the courtroom remains the place where every detail matters. Every document, every tower record, every entry in police diary, every entry in the OB books, and every unanswered question. Because in the end, criminal trials are not decided by emotion. They are decided by proof. And the biggest question still hanging over the trial is very simple. Has that proof truly been established, or are the cracks beginning to show? What are your thoughts when it comes to this? Let's talk in the comment section. I want to hear your views. Thank you so much. I will see you on our next video. Bye-bye.